This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
And now 5:30, they may not be as full, but school buses are back on the state's roads carrying precious cargo to and from school. The effort's underway on multiple fronts to make sure they are as safe as can be. Chris?
Here's what's topping our lineup. There is more evidence linking obesity to coronavirus. Look at what doctors in the U.S. are finding. And a new app may be part of what gets you safely back to work. We will show you how it uses the sound of your voice to determine if you're sick. And there is a lot of uncertainty around youth sports and what's safe with COVID-19. We're taking a look at the impact not playing could have on kids and how you can help them fill that void.
All eyes on approaching severe storms now entering northwest Indiana. What's changed since our last conversation? A whole slew of thunderstorm warnings. Damaging wind, again, the main threat. Williamsport, Attica, Covington, through Lafayette, up to just west of Frankfort, and then through Logansport and Peru. This whole area warned out ahead of this line of storms, which could produce up to 70-mile-per-hour winds. You'll get the strong wind before you get the downpour of rain. And again, I think in any one spot, you're looking at about a half-hour duration of the worst part of the storm. Notice it's a broken line. The warnings do not extend for a short period, but then pick up again on the southwest flank of that line. Well, it will continue to move between now and, say, 11 o'clock from northwest to southeast, so you know what's coming. Make sure that you're prepared and have patio furniture put away, cars in the garage, anything that may be impacted by the strong winds. The heat index, 109 in Terre Haute, 104 in Lafayette, with temperatures in the 90s. That will change very quickly because of the approaching storms. We'll follow those and have more detail for the night ahead here as we go forward.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Returning children safely back to school not only applies to inside the classroom, it includes physically getting them there safely, protecting them while on the bus from illness and also from inattentive drivers. RTV6's Kelsey Anderson reports on the steps the governor and school districts are taking as the school year begins.
As students board the bus this school year, there are two big safety concerns: protecting them from COVID-19 and protecting them from drivers who aren't paying attention.
We are taking every possible precaution we can imagine.
When it comes to protecting kids from COVID-19, that is the message Dr. Jack Parker wants Mount Vernon parents to know. No doubt school will look different this year, and so will the buses.
We are assigning seats. Every kid will have the exact same seat, only 2 per seat maximum. We are also cleaning our buses, sanitizing them after every route so that they're freshly sterilized before kids come onto the bus.
Students and drivers will also be required to wear masks while on the bus. The other safety concern they have is drivers violating the stop arm.
Last year we had 32 violations.
Derek Shelton is the director of operations, and he tells me last year they installed cameras on every bus.
So that we can get a picture of the driver and their face, and we can also get a picture of their license plate and their car types.
On top of that, earlier this month, Governor Eric Holcomb announced law enforcement agencies across the state will be out in full force looking for stop arm violations as students get on and off the bus. In a press release, Governor Holcomb said, quote, "We're sending a clear message that driving with anything less than your full attention is unacceptable."
If it's going to cost you an extra minute, please just take your time so we can save a life.
This year, the governor also made it a law that holding a cell phone while driving is illegal, just an added precaution to protect the children. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Let's start the news feed with uncertainty in the job market. More job openings are being posted, but overall hiring's down. Experts think this is because businesses like restaurants are starting to bring workers back. However, outside that industry, businesses are suspect of bringing on some new employees. Kodak stock taking a big hit today after regulators put a $765 million loan that it was supposed to get from the U.S. government on hold. They're reportedly looking into allegations of insider trading. The loan is for the company to help make drug ingredients so we don't have to rely on drugs coming from outside the U.S. More than 100 people arrested after looting in Chicago. More than a dozen police officers hurt. Much of the looting taking place on Chicago's Magnificent Mile. It sparked after an officer-involved shooting in the city over the weekend. President Trump signed several executive orders this weekend, but experts say the likelihood of them taking effect is in question. Among the executive orders the president signed include extending federal unemployment benefits, adding $400 a week extra instead of the original $600. States may be on the hook for some of that money.
State budgets have been decimated by the pandemic and the downturn. They're not getting sales tax revenues like they would have in the past, and they've had to spend a lot of money for all kinds of things during this experience. So their budgets are hardly in a position to weather yet another expense that's related to the pandemic.
Another executive order impacts a payroll tax cut. It could save Americans around $1,200 starting in September through the end of the year. Economic experts say payroll processing firms aren't even sure they could make it happen. Now, it's just a postponement of payment, not a tax cut. Only Congress can do that.
And let's be frank, as we get ever closer to the November election, the less likely it is that members of both parties are going to be able to act in behalf of the best needs of the American people, as many of those lawmakers see to it that they protect their own interests first.
Mark Hamrick says Congress needs to act at bare minimum on a number of issues, including another round of direct payments to Americans, helping with daycare costs and reopening schools so working parents can work, and expand help for Americans that don't have enough money for food. All right, next in our lineup, there is more evidence linking obesity to coronavirus. We are taking a look at what doctors in the U.S. are finding.
Severe storms now arriving in Fowler, Williamsport, Attica, from Lafayette up to Monticello next as the storms move to the east. Expect up to 70-mile-per-hour winds with these storms.
There is increasing evidence linking obesity and the most severe COVID-19 symptoms, and it's not part of many countries' national response plans. Only about a quarter of countries recognize the link between obesity and COVID, according to the World Obesity Federation. The CDC said having a body mass index of 30 or higher increases your risk of severe illness. Research led by American doctors found that younger COVID hospital patients are more likely to be obese.
And it doesn't have to be just obesity, actually. In fact, any degree of excess weight seems to be associated with worsened disease. So even going from to a few pounds overweight, that seems to increase risk a little bit.
The head of the National Center for Weight and Wellness says obesity is an inflammatory condition. It also increases the risk of other issues like diabetes, high blood pressure. Another issue is the pandemic has disrupted some weight management plans and support groups.
Overwhelmingly, people don't need to be more scared about obesity and weight management, particularly in our thin obsessed society and often our fat shaming society.
Dr. Khan says the biggest progress in treating obesity is that it's being discussed more as a health condition. The disease is complicated. It can be caused by multiple factors outside of a person's control. The World Obesity Federation hopes that COVID-19 could lead to a new era of obesity awareness, prevention, and treatment. Let's get back to our lineup. A new app may be part of what gets you safely back to work. We will show you how it uses the sound of your voice to determine if you're sick. Let's get to the news feed. Uber's CEO is calling for a fund that would help drivers get benefits. In a New York Times op-ed, he said the money would help gig workers buy benefits because right now drivers are considered independent contractors. Well, there's plenty of open space at malls across America. Amazon could fill some spaces in Simon-owned malls. The company is talking with Simon, which is the nation's largest mall operator, to turn some empty department stores into distribution centers. The government's found a new ingredient to kill bugs. Now, what makes Nucatone different is while it kills bugs, it's not toxic to you. It's actually found in the skin of grapefruit. Technology is helping address one major problem magnified by this pandemic: senior isolation. Lindsay Boach shows us how this has some seniors learning some new skills.
It's something you do with little to no thought. Text a friend, FaceTime a relative, order something off Amazon. But for many senior citizens, this is all brand new.
Technology slowly opening all these doors to different things. To watch videos, to watch YouTube videos. they've never seen anything like that.
Connie Nelson works with the elderly who need assistance in their homes. She says introducing this generation that's used to delayed gratification to technology is playing a huge role in helping them get through this pandemic.
This is just instant. You text a grandchild and they text you immediately.
The technology Nelson's at-home caregivers are teaching the senior citizens ranges from texting to ordering groceries from Alexa.
They're sitting there all day waiting. They're waiting for a phone call or they're waiting for a visit, and sometimes those don't come because everybody's busy. But once you hand technology to them, the response is there.
And while most of this education is for entertainment purposes, Nelson says they're walking patients through telemedicine in hopes they'll continue using it in the future.
I think at the time they're a little standoffish because it's like, no, he has to see me, he has to touch me, he has to, check my ears. And if they can get past, you won't get that physical exam, but you'll get that face-to-face where you can actually tell him everything that's going on.
Teaching them skills like FaceTime and using social media like Facebook is keeping them connected to those who may not be able to visit right now.
Once they learn it, it's so rewarding because they're staying up to date with what's going on in their loved ones' lives.
And helping to cure the loneliness that can come with COVID-19. I'm Lindsay Boach.
Downtown street signs now indicate that it's about time to go racing for the coronavirus-delayed Indy 500. The signs feature driver names like Herta Drive, Alonzo Avenue, and Daly Drive. The street signs are a feature you typically see in the month of May in Indianapolis, but there is nothing typical about this year's 500 or the racing season. Practice starts Wednesday for the August 23rd race, which will be held without fans. And more racing news, this time on the dirt track. Yesterday, USAC announced the return of the Hoosier 100 to the Indiana State Fairgrounds on August 23rd. Last year, it was announced the race would not return to the Fairgrounds track because plans were to convert the dirt track to a stone track. That work has been put on hold due to COVID-19, allowing the race to return this year. The Hoosier 100 dates back to 1953. Kevin.
We are looking north from Indianapolis, but I think most of you, if you step outside and look to the west, that's where you will see the approach of storms, and in most cases, severe storms with damaging wind the main threat. Look at this line of storms rapidly moving to the east, which means won't last that long in any one spot, but it will be a big punch when it arrives. It's already well through Benton County and Fowler, Williamsport, Attica, down to Covington and Petersburg. Again, you get the wind before the heavier rain. Lafayette, Monticello prepare for the arrival, as well as Logansport and Peru. All of us will see storms, though. The main impacts from this little branch of storms will be some 70-mile-per-hour gusts. See how this arcs all the way back towards St. Louis now? The atmosphere is kind of supercharged to keep this going. So I don't think these are going to fade as a result of that heat and humidity, and the storms moving southeast will just continue to propagate and to bring with it that damaging wind threat. 86 in Indy, 89 in Bloomington. We showed you it was in the 90s in Lafayette and Terre Haute, but those temperatures will be falling quickly as a result of the storms arriving. The main threat, significant wind damage potential, which means the greater than normal chance of losing power with these storms as some tree limbs and trees go down across power lines. Flooding a concern, but the storms are moving fast enough that I don't think we'll have that much rain in any one spot for too long, but we'll see additional thunderstorms later tonight. 7 to 9, there's the healthy line of storms southeast of Indy by that point, sliding toward the state line, and then as that leaves, we still have some additional thunderstorms through the overnight hours, any one of which would produce heavy rainfall. Next several days, daily chance for thunderstorms with temperatures pretty much locked in where you would expect them this time of year. It's all about nowcasting this evening, following the line of storms across central Indiana, and we'll do that minute by minute throughout the evening.
Let's start the news feed. Governments have put billions of dollars into the fight against coronavirus. The World Health Organization says that is not enough. The WHO says we're only about 10% of the way there in terms of money committed. You might find fewer people at the airport, but the TSA is finding more guns. Agency says in July, it found 3 times the amount of guns in carry-on bags compared to last year, and even more concerning, 80% of them were loaded. Well, more people do seem to be flying compared to the start of the pandemic. The amount of people going through security passed 800,000 for the first time since this pandemic started. To put that in perspective for you, though, that amount, it's about 31% of the amount of people traveling at this time last year. Robots are helping seniors isolated by the pandemic. The state of Alabama is investing in robotic pets. According to research, 70% of seniors who received the robotic pet had reduced feelings of isolation, sadness, and loneliness.
2 instances I know of when the person was given a robotic pet. One started talking a lot and telling everybody about her robotic pet. And then the other one, after the pet had been in her lap for about 30 minutes, said pretty.
The computerized companions are from a company called Joy for All. They cost less than $100.
And whether there's 3 of us or 5 of us or 10 of us, it's just a wonderful thing to be able to do.
When we all get to heaven, 701, 701.
Meanwhile, a church family outside of Nashville is making house calls to their members stuck at home, singing hymns on their front lawns. And that includes people like 92-year-old Evelyn McDowell, who hasn't been to church in 20 weeks, a church that she's been a member of since 1950.
I've missed church. It's just wonderful friends coming from church to bless me.
The church carolers always end with a Christmas song because they say they're not sure whether it will be safe to gather indoors again. Coronavirus is forcing millions of people to work from home. Some companies are looking to when employees will come back to the office. And as Maya Rodriguez tells us, to do so safely, they are turning to technology found in a smartphone and the sound of your voice.
It sounds like a visit to the doctor's office. But this high-tech checkup doesn't involve a medical professional, but rather an app.
It is a completely objective measure.
David Liu is with Sond Health, the company behind an app called Sond One. It's designed to screen employees at home for potential respiratory ailments like COVID-19, in part through the sound of their voice.
Speaking is one of the most complex physical things that a person can do. Many parts of the body have to come together, including your brain, your lips, your mouth, your lungs, your heart.
Which is where the app comes in. After answering a few symptom-related questions, it prompts a person to say, "ah," for a set amount of time. The app then either clears the person to go into the office or notifies them and their employer something may be amiss.
It's a biomarker like any other that the body produces.
The voice analysis technology has been used before in helping screen people for depression. And several studies done in the US, Australia, and Germany show it may have merit.
And symptoms of disease show up. They will impede or change your ability to speak.
But the app can't specifically detect coronavirus. It can pick up if someone might have a cold, the flu, or even asthma. Still, some companies are signing on.
There's a group of managers who are testing this, on a daily basis right now, just so that we can learn like the ins and outs of it.
Ed McNamara is with the New Jersey-based software company SHI, which has 5,000 employees.
Our culture as a company is one that, is really based in us, being together and collaborating in person.
But COVID-19 put a stop to that because, like millions of others, they're working from home. The company hopes that might change sometime in the fall and that the app could be part of their strategy to come back.
It's one complement of all of the other activities that we're undertaking just to make sure that, when we do come back to the office, it's in the safest possible way.
Safety that could hinge on the sound of your voice. In Washington, D.C., I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Maya, thank you. Now, finally in our lineup, there's a lot of uncertainty around youth sports and what's safe with COVID-19. We're looking into the impact not playing could have on kids and how you can help them fill that void. This pandemic is forcing the cancellation of a lot of youth sports. Meanwhile, some parents just aren't letting their kids play. But experts say you really need to factor in age when you're talking with your kids about not being able to play sports. You think of some of the younger kids out there, around 6, 7 years old. They may be playing just because it's something fun to do. And then you have the older kids, they're around 12, that might use sports as a way to connect with others or use it as a big part of how they develop a sense of who they are.
And so sports provides another context, another situation in which a child can be part of something that's outside the family, that they have an opportunity to understand how to sort of fit into a structure, to be part of a group, to work with adult authority, to interact with people you don't know.
Child development experts say it is all about perspective. Adults can usually provide a deeper look at the long-term effects of not being able to do something.
If the narrative is we need to keep our family safe, grandpa lives with us and we have to be especially careful because of him. I think that's not always easy for kids to hear, but I think that is something that resonates with them.
It's also good to come up with alternatives to youth sports. If a child plays because of the exercise and physical activity, then it would be great to find them an individual sport perhaps, or just something active to do outside. Then if they play because they're competitive, these experts say that video games can actually fill that void. Now, about 90% of the country's schools are underventilated. It's something that has parents and educators concerned more now than ever as kids are headed back to the classroom and COVID cases spike in some places. So tomorrow we take a closer look at the steps that schools could take to make sure the air your child is breathing is safe.
The severe storms that are arriving now started in Iowa over 6 hours ago, and look at that progression at generally anywhere from 50 to 70 miles per hour to the east-southeast. This is the line diving into the viewing area. We'll take you on a radar tour, update you on the latest warnings, and let you know what to prepare for. The news at 6 starts right now.